Holy crap, Strange New Worlds and Secret Invasion came out swinging with their season premieres. I'm really excited to talk about that. We got a few trailers, a little bit of news, and of course, a few squirrels. Beyond that, I got nothing else to talk about, but we're going to get into it. This is Geeks Chasing Squirrels Across the Multiverse. Welcome back, everybody. This is Mark 185. I'm pretty sure I lost count, but I got to go back and make sure that's what it is. I just want to know what happened last week, but I realized I had a typo, so I'm not sure exactly what it is. It's somewhere in that vicinity. My name is Greg. I am the Bad Daddy 52. You would think we would have this by now, but not having it is part of the fun. Here with my homies to talk about all the fun stuff we watched this week. Sarah, what's up?
I'm doing fantastic, guys. Pardon the change of scenery, but like I said, like I was telling you guys, redid the floor in my office, so everything's kind of out right now. So we'll get back to. I feel like I've been a little bit displaced, so I'm kind of like in the corner, sitting in the corner here, but I ain't no baby. So, and I got the dogs in here too, so they're deciding they want to, it's Fight Club, that kind of thing. So I might have to go mute a couple of times and see me with crazy eyes and. Look like I'm yelling. I pretty much am. So it's all good.
It's funny when you think about it, right? You get animals and you change one little thing and they just start going crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
all I did was change one thing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's because literally I'm in the corner of where we sleep. So they're like, oh yeah, it's just there you go. We're just gonna But
animals don't like.
I go dark is probably because I'm about to beat Bruce. I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
You gotta do it.
Dogs and if think dogs as kids, Lord of mercy.
Yeah, I got two of them in the room with me tonight, so we're going to see what happens with them. But they're both laying down right now at the moment, so that works out well. But
how about no more fights on that side?
Yo, please, no, I know that one cost me.
Oh yeah, how's that one going? How's that? Everybody all healed up?
Yeah, she's doing well. Got stitches on both sides of the ear. My dog's got into a fight last week. My newest puppy, who's I'm pretty sure she's pregnant, and then my newest dog that we just introduced to the family 3 weeks ago, but she's 12. We adopted her from our sister who moved to California. Long story. Got into a scuffle. My 9-month-old pit bull ripped her ear. We got some stitches on her. Yeah, it was a rip. It was expensive, but she's doing well now. And you know what? They were laying down on the bed together last night, back to back.
Maybe they just had to have a little come to Jesus meeting. You know how that goes sometimes.
Maybe, but I think I have food aggression problems with my pit bull. She's a great dog. And she won't attack anybody, but around other dogs, when there's food, she gets aggressive. And that's the only time she ever gets aggressive. So I got to work that out.
Boxer.
Bruce has tried to do that a couple of times. It's like if we're on the kitchen and he's standing there, of course, they always think they're going to catch something. But while Austin she'll rock around the corner, he'll snap at her. That doesn't do too well for Bruce because, he goes in timeout real quick. Yeah. And I'm thinking, dude, you're not about to get anything. Stop acting like a jerk.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. You got to basically box her up. You got to keep her segregated.
That's what we've been doing. Basically, when something like that happens, we just put her in her kennel for a while. She's a very well-behaved dog. She does great. It's just beyond that. And honestly, it was my mistake for opening the door and letting her in there while the other dog was eating.
Mm-hmm.
Just not thinking about what was going on. Had I not done that, nothing would have happened. So I feel kind of bad about it, but it's all done now. So first squirrel out of the way. Ross, what's up?
I'm present, man.
I hear you.
Present. I spent a lot of time in front of a computer this week, so
next week you don't got to say it, man. Just raise your hand, so that way people have to come on the show to know that you're present. Don't even say it. Just raise your hand.
Occupying space.
I hear you.
I want the ship to go now.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna talk about that one because that's some fun stuff. Yeah, we got some really good stuff this week. I'm not gonna lie, man. I'm just spoilers for feelings later. I was really impressed with both these shows going into these seasons, and super excited to talk about them. But I guess we do probably have a few things we need to talk about beforehand. I think Ross, you sent us some trailers this week, right?
Oh, we did have a couple.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. One really. What else was there? We'll hit it. Craven was the big one, and I gotta get this out of the way first and foremost. the poster has been all over the place, right? So Reddit's been falling apart.
Mhm.
The dude on Reddit came out with all these API changes. Anyway, it's been tearing that whole social platform apart. It's the only thing that I ever look at because it's a nice place to just let the news come in and not worry about any of the drama. They've been posting the picture of him with his like wannabe 8-pack sitting in like his big chair. He's all like slouched down and stuff. And someone made the comment, and I thought about it too as I was reading. I was like, I know exactly where this is going. It looks like a 90s, romance novel that a mom would read at a pool, with her kids. And I'm like,
Okay.
whoa, what is this? Because,
That's true.
the kid, yeah, the dude that plays
Danielle
that is
Steele,
from,
I guess, would you say?
no, much raunchier than that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we're talking about the romance novels,
Yeah.
those kind of stuff, that kind of something like
That's
the
the only
Fabio.
female author I know that my mom read growing up, so that just threw it out there.
Well,
I wasn't sure.
I mean, then you should feel better about your childhood than some of these other people, because they're reading romance with like the capital MAN in romance, and let's just say that I've seen some covers before, and this one could have been one. But the trailer, I mean, my thoughts. The trailer was action packed. It was 3 minutes, man. It was like
long.
Like,
it was very
like
long.
You saw all of the action scenes for this.
I hope
movie.
it wasn't spoiled. Yeah,
but I'm kind of. I don't want to say I'm over that side of the universe, but I didn't really care for Morbius. Like, it wasn't my thing. Venom was entertaining, but I like Hardy. I like, what they did with that version of Venom, most of it. And even though, the CG was a little weird, the movie worked, and it worked twice for people.
Well, okay, so my only real knowledge of like Craven and Morbius is from the 90s Spider-Man the animated series.
Yeah,
show,
amazing.
Which those are the characters in my mind that I build, which is why I think I love the original Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire. Like, probably one of my favorite ones, just because it just reminds me of that Spider-Man type thing. I like Morbius better as a character in that show than Craven, but I'm more excited to see Craven than I was Morbius. And I still haven't seen Morbius, just because I'm not a horror guy. And Morbius, I mean, I guess on the cartoon animated screen, it looks cool and I like the character better. But like when I look at that movie and then I look at this one, I'm like, yeah, I'd rather watch Craven, just because the aesthetic of it. Because I'm not a horror guy, even though it's not a horror movie. It's just first initial thought. Now, when I look at this Craven, the trailer looked awesome. The action scenes looked awesome. I'm not sold on this guy as Craven, though. He does not look the part. I'm not knocking his acting skills. I know nothing about that, and he may blow it out of the water. But when I look at him, I don't see Craven. And that's what bothers me the most about this. The action scenes look great. The story might be there. And this guy could convince me. But right off the bat, just from seeing this initially, I'm like, that's not Craven to me. He's too clean cut. Like I don't know.
Well, it's how do you bring a guy in a loincloth, more or less is what Craven has been portrayed as countless times in the comics. And so how do you bring that and make it big screen worthy, I guess.
Right.
And I think how you do that is you just really got to change his story quite a bit.
Yeah.
The actor, the kid played Kick-Ass. He's been getting his gym days in for sure, because he has definitely gotten big for
grew
this.
into a man's body.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
But I don't know, he's supposed to have a Russian accent. They don't give the character a Russian accent in this thing.
Yeah, maybe that was what threw it off for me the most. I mean, not the most, but I wouldn't even think about that. It was just the accent, possibly. Mm-hmm. It's like I said, I'm not knocking the movie because I haven't seen it yet, and it does look really good. It's just that, like, initially looking at this guy, I don't see him as Craven. But I've said that about a lot of characters and really enjoyed their performance. So I'm not going to let that hold me back from enjoying this movie. I did not see Morbius in theaters. I might go see this in theaters. I don't know. I got to look a little more into it. Sarah, what say you?
I'm actually watching it right now. That tells you how long I've been out of
she's watching it.
Yeah, I saw you focus on something. So yeah.
Well, because like I said, I've traveled this week and it's just been up and down or whatever. And I remember seeing it and I'm thinking, man, I need to see this. And it was just me not doing my homework.
Well,
yeah,
no,
I'm just kind of watching it right now. And I'm like,
that's the coolest thing. Yeah.
I mean, I know a little bit about Craven, and I'm like, for what I'm watching right now, is this like another version of like Sheena? That's what I'm getting, like vibes from. Like the whole, like from what I'm seeing, like the, yeah, it is giving a lot of, it's giving a lot away. I'm like, is there going to be anything left in the movie? Because I'm like,
yeah, I wonder that about a lot of trailers, but then whenever I get into the movie, a lot of times I see like almost everything I saw in the trailer within like the first 20 minutes of the movie, and I'm like, okay, I'm cool with that. Like I didn't expect that, but okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the more that a movie needs to bring in customers. Yes, yeah. See, you can't unsee it now, can you? Yeah. The more that a movie needs help, the longer the trailer will be, right? And so when I just think that they kind of they blew a pretty big wad on this one with the amount of action that they let out. So it's amazing how much they really let them put on screen. And what I'm at odds with is they give the weird twist of a Spider-Man origin story in the trailer, and I'm like, are we really going with this? Tiger's blood, or lion's blood?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, is that how it gets? Because I really don't know. Like I said, other than what I've seen, like in a comic or a cartoon or an animated, basically anything about Kraven.
Yeah.
So
in the same way.
It was a reskin of Spider-Man, in my opinion.
It sounds very, very similar to that. And I guess they kind of have the rights to do whatever they really want to do with this because, they're a separated universe. I mean, I don't know if I can agree with the longer the trailer, the more the movie needs help. Because what if they put this 3-minute trailer out and then we don't get anything else? Like, only thing we see from here on out is 30-second teasers cut out of this 3-minute clip. Then I don't feel like I feel like then they're doing the same thing everybody else did, except just giving you everything they would give you in a trailer right away. Which I don't know if that's a great marketing strategy, but I don't know if that necessarily means that it needs more help. It may.
Okay, but let's say the more unknown that it is, then, because like when you have, any sequel movie, any, you look more at like something big like DC and Marvel, people already know quite a bit, and they're not going to give you. They'll give you like the first run action scene, which I think is what they gave us in this with him running and chasing down the car. It sure seemed like it was like that, but also you don't know how much of the story is going to be the first time that he gets to use his powers versus what the end fight is going to be,
right?
So
well, damn it, I had something right on the tip of my tongue and I forgot what I was going to say. I hate when I do that.
It's interesting. I mean, it's kind of like intrigued. I think I'm gonna go see it. I'll go see it.
It's Kraven on the big screen,
Yeah, I mean that's something that you never really thought that we have opportunity to see. So I'm just really kind of curious to see how they flesh them out. So it's gonna be interesting.
Well, and the difference is, and I know this is a different studio as well. This is a Fox production or a Sony production. Is it Fox or Sony? I can't remember.
Sony
production, which is adjacent to the MCU. And like, if you want to talk about how people said Iron Man and Thor and everybody else were like B and C characters that nobody knew before these movies, these guys, Kraven, Morbius, these guys have got to be like down in the E's, F's.
Well, they're still in the Spider-Man, right? And so like they're the Rose Gallery for Spider-Man, but at the same time, Spider-Man's massive.
Spider-Man is massive, but not everybody would be super familiar with Spider-Man's deeper villains. I would call Morbius and Kraven more Spider-Man's like deeper villains. I think if you have a general knowledge of Spider-Man, but you didn't read Spider-Man comics, you might know of Dr. Octopus or maybe like one of the goblins. Yeah, but I don't think you would know Kraven or Morbius.
Let's talk about that for a second. When you have Spot in Across the Spider-Verse, they take a villain like that, which like I said on that review, it's amazing what they were able to do with that kind of villain. That was a very cheesy idea, but turned to be like a very, very cool villain at the end. A lot less of a villain of the week.
Right. We could do a Spider-Man by itself ranking. He uses a Batman too. Ranking of villains as far as, I don't want to say popularity, but what's the word I'm looking for? Ability to be recognized, clout, Yeah.
Cloud.
Yeah. I'm just looking for words here.
Spider-Man villain thirst traps.
Yeah. So I'm just looking for words to throw out. I mean, fame. Yeah, we could do that. That'd be fun. We should think about that sometime. But then you'd have to have a set number of villains you used, and everybody would have to have their own. You could do your rankings of them. That'd be fun.
What was it? What's that song? The 10 Crack Commandments. You remember when 102 Jams on the radio station always used to have the top 10 songs that they would play, and it was always, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yep.
We need to have that. We need to have that right here. Top
That's
10
it.
villains.
Yeah.
Go.
Sound drop just like that too. I need a badass one just like that. I'm gonna steal them. 102 Jams. They're out. They don't do that anymore, so nobody will remember that.
I'm sure
except
it's
for
still a
us, right?
station.
Let's do it.
I don't listen to FM radio.
I can't tell you the last time.
This is 2023, man.
Man, when I got my truck, I installed a nice radio. Big screen, touch face. I never turn my radio on. When I get in my car, I put my earbuds in and I turn my phone on and listen to something to my earbuds. Like I never ever turn. I don't even turn the thing on. Like it's just a nice big screen sitting there now. It's like, why did I do that? Like why? I thought I was gonna need it because I thought that I was gonna be cool and like connect my phone to my truck because I've only had old vehicles. I've never had like this new fancy stuff. I was like, let me try this new fancy stuff, and I just never use it. My earbuds are so much better. It's unnecessary technology.
Go for your next trailer.
And on that note, what was the other trailer? I can't remember. There were two.
There was a Hunger Games trailer for whoever's into that. Apparently, they gave them a date of November. Or I think they had the date in November. I know there was a.
I like Hunger Games, but
was it last week or the week before? I think they did the trailer for that show Quarterback that's coming out on Netflix next month.
Oh,
what you got?
Rebel Moon was the other one you sent us.
Oh, that was the behind the scenes
the behind
stuff.
the scenes film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Netflix did the Tadum event that they did down in Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had everyone come out on stage and they were showing bits and pieces of everything. Still no Arcane anything. They did show off some of the behind the scenes stuff for Rebel Moon. So that's going to be what could have been Zack Snyder's Star Wars story. And now it's a whole standalone project that he's doing that is going to be out on Netflix. Christmas Day, I think, if I'm correct, is when that comes out.
What a great Christmas present.
Yeah. I think that's right. Let me double check. I want to make sure I'm right on this.
Yeah.
Christmas. Nope, the 22nd. Comes out on the 22nd.
Aquaman comes out. I might wait till Christmas to watch it.
So we get yet another DC movie to come out on Christmas. Which I gotta have this conversation real fast, just a little bit. I think we're gonna roll off trailers real fast, and I'm just gonna do a little bit of talk here. Blue Beetle comes out before and is in the DCU.
Right.
The character is supposed to be.
Right.
The movie's not supposed to be the first DCU movie. Superman is. Aquaman comes out on Christmas.
Ross,
it's not a part of it.
It's a bowl of spaghetti, Ross.
No, okay.
Don't you understand that? It's a bowl of spaghetti. Doesn't that explain everything? Come on.
Pasta la vista, baby.
Come on. No, I get it. It's comes down to my biggest issue with the Flash. We'll talk about some post-Flash week 1 here in just a little while too. And just that there's no closure, and I have no idea. It did give me. I expected that movie to give me direction or give me some kind of idea where they were going, and it gave me none. Good movie, just didn't give me a direction. And you're right. That just leads further to the point that's just so crazy. It's like why do the Aquaman movie beyond the fact that you've already? I mean, I guess you've already filmed it.
Just set a hard date and say sense, now things will start making sense.
Yeah,
but
I'm excited for both of them though. I don't know. What do you think, Sarah? Back to Rebel Moon.
Did you watch it?
I did. It looked pretty amazing. This does not remind me of Star Wars, but it looks really good. So, I mean, like when I watch it, I'm like, now, granted, I'm sure that if it was in the Star Wars universe, it would remind me more of Star Wars. It's just when I look at it, I just get a totally different looking story, but it's something that I'm really excited about. It looks really, really good. How many parts is this series?
I think it's a movie.
It's a movie? Okay, I thought it might have been a series. Okay, cool. Well, there we go. One shot. So you're gonna like the trailer. It looks really, really good.
It definitely has more of a. You're right. It doesn't feel Star Warsy, and there's a point I think I'm gonna bring up about Star Trek later, kind of about that, and it's just that it's set like you don't have to have the things that connect you to Star Wars. So he was just able to rip all that away, and then this behind the scenes trailer a little bit basically says, like we just took free reins with what we wanted to see. And he just let the creators, run crazy with designs that he approved, and it kind of shows in this trailer. I think they talk about it quite a bit, if I'm remembering right. It's been a while since I watched it, but it's nice when you're able to give that freedom. We talk about how the writer's strike and the SAG strike and everything else. Well, I mean, you have all these people that do, like beyond HGTV quality stuff for shows and movies, and they're out there but just letting their imagination run wild. So I'm a huge fan of that. I think I love seeing what people come up with. That's what always makes these groundbreaking movies as time has gone on. When you have like when the '84 Dune came out, we had Blade Runner. Any of these things that come out, they just change the way that stuff looks. Like it's the next thing. Like that's how it's supposed to look. So I love it. I mean, go right back again, just to the shows that we watched this week with Star Trek. Last week, like watching the opening of this week's episode. I mean, you're just like, like your eyes are like just hooked and glued, and you're like, damn, that looks amazing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's definitely the age, like for movies like this. I think that a lot of movies, older movies that are, which is why they're remaking a lot of stuff, but stuff like Star Wars and Star Trek, there's only a few that kind of stood the test of time. They continue to go on and grow strong. And just imagine if A New Hope came out, Ross, in 2000. Like you would probably still have almost every movie that we have now out. Just because 20 years, you can do what 13 or 12, 13 movies easy. But imagine how it just from the beginning, because if you ever seen, and it looks cool, and I'm not knocking New Hope, but have you ever seen that digitally remastered Obi-Wan and Vader New Hope fight scene?
I tried to get you to watch that forever. Yeah, I was hooking you up with that.
Oh man, that is so awesome. I'm like, man, this is Star Wars would be a totally different thing if it started like that.
Very true.
Yeah, dude, but it was still a trailblazer of its time. So,
yeah. 100%. Yeah.
I think that's where the comparison that you're really trying to make. It's like it was big then. Like imagine what they could do now. And we're getting it in different ways, but nothing comes. All the stuff that was made back then came out in a prime time. Like there was specific for that era to where it was they were able to make such massive jumps. Now it's hard to see the massive jumps. People say something about Avatar all the time, like it changed 3D cinema, and like it was really good, but you can't give me 5 of those. Like last week we were talking about that. I'm like, in 2031, like I don't want to see Avatar. I don't like.
I mean, give me a different storyline.
Sometimes you have like multiple versions or parts or movies of like one property. It's like you kind of lose that magic. Transformers the same way. I mean, because it's like the first one came out, then it's like you're pumping out the rest of them.
Fast and Furious,
losing it.
I mean, like it's just cars on cars on cars on cars.
Fast and Furious. Yeah.
The books are better for Fast and Furious.
The books are better, yeah. Now, here's the thing: is there's certain movies that can be remade and it's fine. With something like Star Wars and Star Trek, even what we're doing now, even though they kind of quasi did remake some Star Trek movies, I don't want to see remakes. Like I don't want to see like a New Hope with new actors remade. Like, that's the story. There's so much universe to build new stuff off of. There's no need to ever remake that movie. Ever.
No.
Ever.
Absolutely not.
I think it takes away from the franchise if you do.
Well, yeah, because you've already got in that universe. I mean, you already have your characters are there. I mean, that's it. You can't change that but there's so much more opportunity to, explore the other characters within that world as well. So I mean, it's I think That's probably one thing that like the Star Wars world would like agree. It's like there's only one Luke Skywalker, and that's it.
That's
I'm
the thing.
pretty
I
sure.
mean, you also
Yeah.
gotta you create a culture, and then when you do that, you create a massive fan base that loves something they hold on to and refuse to let go of it to try something new. That's
Mhm.
why a bunch of the shows and the movies don't ever, they get a bunch of hate. I think, like I said, I'm going to talk about it more later, but I think something like Andor just it's still tied enough into that whole thing, but I loved how it branched out story wise. I loved
Mhm.
how it told different parts of it. And yeah, you want to keep filling it. You want to keep going back to the well in a certain way. But look at how successful, I mean, for me, Strange New Worlds is for Star Trek. I mean, they literally went back to the same well, and it is successful to me.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how you measure it as unsuccessful.
No, I don't think you could, to be honest with you. It's a fantastic show. Not even being a huge Star Trek fan going in, just this new. I love that I'm not as big of a Star Trek fan as y'all, but I get to experience things like this in the same time y'all do, and that's cool. I feel like it's almost cheating.
Yeah, you
you know,
definitely
like
you took the
I
shortcut.
started this job like 5-6 years after y'all, but I'm still enjoying the same benefits of the new day and age. So it's like, oh, but hey, whatever, man. It's good stuff. Well, what other we got any other trailers, news? I mean, like I said, the only thing I really wanted to mention was the Flash numbers, which are not that great.
Well, we can start off with that.
Okay.
Go ahead. Mention
So
the
yeah,
numbers.
so one weekend domestic 72 million, which I know sounds like a huge number. I'd love to have that much money, but not good for
1 week for 72. Didn't even break
72.
100.
Domestic bringing in 42% of the. This is on Box Office Mojo. Domestic bringing in 42%, international 58 with 99 million.
Wow.
Domestic, so 172 million total for a week. And I'm a little surprised, man. I thought it was a pretty good movie, and I have to correct myself because Kevin hit me up on Twitter the other day and told me I said last week it was the best Zack Snyder verse non Zack Snyder directed movie. Forgot that Patty Jenkins directed the first Wonder Woman movie, so it is not. It is the second best non
Ooh,
Zack
there you go.
Snyder verse directed movie. If you can
Details
follow
matter.
that logic, details do matter. I just forgot about that. So, because I do like Wonder Woman better in this movie, but I'm just kind of surprised because I enjoyed it. I have my quarrels with Ezra, and maybe that's part of what goes into it. But I feel like I can't say they didn't promote this movie in the last few months.
Years.
Yeah, I mean I've seen it everywhere. In the last few months, at least on everything that I see. That's maybe it's just the algorithms for me.
Well, yeah, probably. I mean, but let's be real. Like, they definitely need to get the word out there because it has been rumored for so long.
Mm-hmm.
I said that I had flash thoughts, and I think that one of my biggest realizations was I would have liked this movie a lot more if it came out in a time that it should have come out in.
Agreed.
I'm pretty sure that I would stick with my rating if it came out in the right time. But the more that I've explained this movie to people, spoilers and non-spoilers, the less and less I think about it. Meaning, the less I'd bring it down rating wise because I'm like, I sit here and I'm trying to talk about it, and like as I'm sitting here, like I don't pick the movie apart, which is something else I have to talk about, but I'm just like, the more I think about it, the less happier I am with it. So that I find that interesting with movies that I go watch. The less that I think about them as time goes on, or as I keep thinking about them, it becomes less and less like important to me. I don't think it's that good of a movie. The good ones stick with you, and I don't think this one really stuck with me. Greg, you said you were super excited. That next day when you were talking about it, I'm like, yeah, even on that next day, I was like, meh, like it was good, but it was good because of all the stuff that came out in it. All the quick pops. But you could probably wrap that up into like a 5-minute clip, and there's all the things that tickled you to death in the movie for me.
Yeah. I will say I'm not as excited about it now, a week out, as I was, next day, fresh out of the movie. Even though I just did still enjoy the movie. I don't know, Sarah. What do you think?
Ross, I'm kind of feeling that because you don't. Like, the more I think about it, it just seems like what we just saw it. What, last week?
Mm-hmm.
What, it
8
doesn't
days
feel
ago.
like I just saw it last week. I don't know if it just hasn't stuck with me because, like I said, my favorite is Wonder Woman. That was literally like as soon as I left the theater, I wanted to go back and see it again. I was like, I want to see this again. But then it's like even like a week after, or that I wanted to go back and see it again. I don't really care to go back and see this again. Now I think the next time I'll see it is probably when it's streaming.
Mhm.
But for some reason, it just didn't stick with me. And I think Ross, maybe you did have a point. It's maybe it would have stuck a little bit more if it seems like it was more relevant. I don't feel like it's as relevant as it used to be.
Sure.
And then like I said, it's like the whole hype of getting this film released. Because it was always the running joke. Oh, I'm not gonna believe it until I see the end credits. Well, saw the end credits.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like I guess you were just like so hyped for it, like didn't really have expectations. And like I said, there was a lot of like Ross, like you said, like a lot of pops in it. A lot of nostalgia, a lot of Easter eggs, a lot of this stuff. And I think, and I'm curious, just because if it didn't have that, would it even
Stick with you.
Would it even resonate?
Well,
Yeah.
I'll ask you one even further. If it doesn't have Michael Keaton, if it just has somebody else play a version of Batman, an old version of Batman, or a Thomas Wayne, and it's not Michael Keaton or anybody else that ever played it, does this movie do even worse?
Yeah.
Does it attract even less people if that's the case? Because I think Michael Keaton was a huge pull for this movie.
There's a lot of people have said that the last scene with Clooney was one of those things that they didn't even shoot. Like, it wasn't in the movie for the people who got to see it early at was that CinemaCon and like these other places where they actually had it at. And so there's clips of this that exist that don't have that closure at the end. They don't have the idea that someone else who played Batman came into it. But I'm like, all of it just kind of makes me lost. Like, when you have, even if you brought in new characters for everybody, that I felt like, all right, I like the Flash suit. I think Ezra Bridger and all that crap kind of did bring a lot of people down to it, but I don't think that it brought it
Ezra
down as
Miller.
much.
Don't bring down Ezra Bridger's name like that, buddy. Don't bring down Ezra Bridger's name like that.
Did I say Bridger?
You did say Bridger.
Oh, I mean, it's Ezra Miller.
Yeah.
When you have that, I don't think that he brought it down nearly as much as the whole DC universe handover thing. Like, I don't know who's guilty and who's not in that. I don't know why. Like, there's just too much, and like that's why I say if it would have come out earlier, I probably would have stuck with a 7 out of 10. I'm now like at a 5 out of 10. Like, I'm just kind of real. I don't know. There's a whole lot that really, there's very high highs and very low lows.
Okay.
And there's a lot more low lows than there were highs.
So what it sounds like is it was an enjoyable movie, but not something that leaves a lasting impression on you. That you're if you're flipping through movies to watch, it's not something you're going to stop on and pick. Probably, if you got a choice of movies.
And then I start picking it apart, and I'm like, well, what are Barry's shoes made out of? Like, how is he running? Like, what's this? And then I'm like, did I go back to the whole time travel thing, which I know, but I'm like, did older Barry ruin younger Barry's life? And then you go back to that whole question, like, is it chicken or is it egg? Like, you can say pasta all day long, but like, if he just wouldn't have done it, would that universe even existed?
I think
he created his own problems.
Yeah, I think it would. I think the younger Barry's universe wouldn't even exist had he not gone back and done that.
Yeah, so he just ruined a whole universe's life, which I think is part of the overarching story. Don't fuck with time, but yeah.
I mean, I get it. Like I said, it's definitely not the best DC movie, but when I even now, after a week later and not being as excited, I look at movies like Suicide Squad and the Birds of Prey and like all these other movies DC's come out with, and I'm like, yeah, I still like this better.
Yeah,
and it may still be bad. Yeah.
Man, it's just kind of mid.
Yeah, but it brings up like everyone's been asking the question, like because the questions are out there and people want answers, and if no one else is going to answer them, then the people are going to put the answers out there, and it's like, is Clooney going to be the older version of Batman going forward? And I'm like, are we going to do this again?
I hope not.
I know.
I hope not.
So
because that's the thing. That's the problem with them not giving us closure. Like, are we? Because is Ezra Miller the Flash of the future? Like, are we walking into this universe with him playing the Flash? Because if you're not bound to Ezra Miller being the Flash, you're not bound to any other characters you have in this movie being who they are. Period. You know, it's just weird how they're going to go with it. I wonder if the delays in the movie had anything to do with Ezra and how he got in trouble, or the numerous times he got in trouble for different things. And you try to delay that for people to forget about these things because, I mean, let's be real. A lot of people probably don't even know about them. You know,
I like to keep my head canon that they had to wait so long to shoot this so that they could shoot the older version of Ezra and the younger version of Ezra.
That's what I said last week. Yeah. That's what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I think they did it.
But I don't know. I hate it because I wanted to see a good Flash movie, and I got a decent Flash movie. I don't want to. I'm not trying to say that I was robbed of that. I'm just saying that I really wanted a really good one. I felt like a lot went into waiting for it. I'm like, all right, they're just gonna keep making it better. They're just gonna keep making it better, and once again, it had Batman, it had Supergirl, it had two Flashes, and even like Rubber Face Flash. There's a whole lot that went into that. It was, there were good, funny parts, but a lot of it was just, I just really wanted a good Flash movie.
Yeah, it was like the ending was like just so open ended because, like I said, with I'm not seeing as Clooney being like the the Batman going forward. I just feel like this never ending loop of, okay, I'm gonna go back and fix this. Oh, well, I'll change that. Well, I'll fix this, but I changed it.
How do you stop
that kind of thing? So I'm like, I don't think it's ever gonna be. Like I said, the whole spaghetti thing, to me, that made a lot of sense because it's like you can go from here to here, but then if you try to go back, you might end up taking a wrong turn and, that kind of thing. So I just don't think this movie could have given you closure. I really don't. Not unless it just really, they had it planned out to say, hey, look, this is where but, Gunn is still in the planning process. So it's not really. And maybe that's what that was, kind of keeping it open-ended. So, if he goes back and change something, it'll, change this. It could be a different Batman. It could be a different Alfred, different Rob, just whatever.
Yeah. Well, I think this movie was given the impossible task of trying to please the majority, like everybody, which you can never do with a movie like this. I mean, you can argue there are movies like Endgame and everything else that there are very few people who really had problems with that movie. It suits just about everybody pretty well, but you have a whole universe built around that. They never got a chance to build the universe around this movie to have a story this big. This is a crisis event. This is probably the biggest crisis event in the DC universe.
Absolutely.
Well, like Crisis on Infinite Earths, and there's a few. I mean, there's a couple that are like the biggest things there, and they just didn't have time to do this story justice. You could have told a Flash story without doing a Flashpoint. Like, for me, if you're going to do a Flashpoint story, use that to reset your universe, which they didn't do. They gave us some cool cameos, but you didn't reset anything.
Feels like it would have been more than one movie too, because Flashpoint is just it's one moment, but yet it just ripples throughout so far. I don't know. It's kind of crazy.
Well, like I said, in the story, they have the actual Atlantean and Amazon war. And Wonder Woman and Aquaman being in love, like there's a whole another part to the story that they just and I get it. You can only tell so much. You want to focus on certain things. When you have a comic and you have a full graphic novel, you can tell this to, or a number of different comics you tell it to. You can go deeper in the story. But you're right; they could have made it a 2-part movie.
Imagine if they did it a 2-part, and not only as they did it as a 2-part, they changed all of the actors in the second part.
In the second movie, that's genius, brilliant.
Yeah.
I love it.
Boom. Reboot.
Why are we not writing this? Seriously. Hire us. Come on, Gunn. You heard it. We figured it out.
Well, something else you got to wait for, like you did The Flash. Last of Us Season 2 apparently is not going to come out until 2025.
Yeah, but we knew that. Or what we thought was 2024, wasn't it?
early mid 2025. As apparently they're bumping it out already, I guess, with ideas of the writer strike and everything else. The writer strike, like I said last week, they bumped all sorts of stuff out, and so they did a whole shuffle with everything that, like, you know, it's owned by Disney, owned with DC, like all the big guys, Star Wars. Like they did a whole shuffle with all of that. So
we're gonna see how it affects the universe, because I mean, I know it's going to take a long time to really see when the stuff that the writers they haven't come back have the other people have written, or the ones who aren't experienced. I'm not saying there aren't other people who aren't experienced, that are not experienced, but aren't as talented, that can't do a good job.
you're just talking about scab writers,
right? We haven't gotten to a point yet where we've seen that writing. This is all the stuff that was already done before the writer strike, which we're getting great television right now, great stories right now. I wonder how far down the road it's going to be before we start to see, if we start to see these stories deteriorate.
You really start to see it in like shows that are on network television, really.
Yeah.
You know, that's why, you know, if you ever remember the previous writer strikes, that, you know, there were the seasons that were like, you don't have to watch that season because, you know, there's a writer strike happening and they're basically just piecing it together. But yeah, those dates are changing. And then I got Star Trek. If you were at all a Prodigy fan, which I know we're a lot, you know, older than needed to be for that audience, they not only canceled it, they are removing that from the streaming service. Yeah,
Really?
that and like Pink Ladies and like a couple other things.
Pink Ladies, that didn't last? Are you kidding me? Pink Ladies didn't last? No way.
I'll tell you, man. It's because you didn't watch it, Greg.
Yeah, it's because I didn't watch it. You're right.
I wonder what the reason behind that is. Is just the there any
Netflix bug? They do it all the time. You know?
I was gonna say, if I were willing to bet, it's because they probably want to let someone else have rights to it, so they can stream it somewhere else. You know, they can sell it off. Because if it's not doing your network any good, then, you know, you can try to push it somewhere else. Because maybe not everyone has Paramount.
Like prime example for that channel, something like that. Sell it to them.
From show that I was talking about in the chat, like I finally sat down and watched it, and the only reason why I got around to watching it was because it was on Prime, and I had the time to kill. And when I don't remember the guy's name that was talking about it on here in the chat room, but we didn't talk about it, and he basically, you know, moved on. That show is crazy. Like,
really,
I got the MGM streaming service, the free 5 days or whatever it is that they had. The last episode drops this Sunday, and I have blown through that show. And let me tell you, it is stop watching Walking Dead. All right, just stop. Because this is like a combination of Lost and Walking Dead. Like, it's so good.
Does it have Daryl Dixon?
Right through it.
No, that's the reason why I'm still Walking Dead.
All right, here's what you do: you print a picture of them out and you put it on the corner of your TV screen. Just tape it up there.
No, you can always see them.
Because everybody else is stupid.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. The show, I mean, I don't want to spoil anything if you ever get around to watching it, so I'm not going to say anything. But I'll tell you, like I said, when someone had to ask me to describe it, I sat there for a minute, and then for some reason, Lost and Walking Dead were the two things that popped in my head. And there aren't zombies, but they're monsters.
So that's what's so funny too, because, like I said, Brian and Claire, The Walking Dead, they're on. It's really hard for them to get through season 11. They're like, it is.
When you get to season 11 of any show, it's hard. Sorry.
Lost. I watched Lost from beginning to end. And in the beginning, it was fantastic until it got to a certain point. You're like, what in the hell? Yeah. What are y'all smoking? I mean, why did it have to take this turn? I mean, that was just kind of wild. So, I mean, I guess if it's a cross between that, I don't know if I can handle that. That's just, you know, especially when you got something that takes like an immediate left or right turn. You're like, whoa.
Yeah,
at least they're not. Blinker on.
They're not full hour-long episodes, but there's 10 per season, and the second season is about to wrap up. So I thought that I was going to like it after watching the first couple episodes, and then like you just keep going, and you're like, oh wait, here's more. Oh wait, here's more. It just keeps going.
So
it does have graphic moments in it. So like with dead people, and I think there's like one partial nude scene or something, but like it's more like dead people and scary stuff.
I'm out. No nudity for me.
Okay.
Oh fuck! I forgot what I was gonna say. Damn it.
See, Ross, you threw him off.
I know you threw me off. We were talking about Walking Dead. We were talking about
Flash.
Confession. I've never seen Lost. Not one single episode.
I didn't watch Lost until way later on.
Okay.
Like,
I watched it as it was.
You know me. I like to wait like 10 years.
No, dude.
I wish I could have watched it. Yeah, I wish I could have watched it week to week.
I watched it every week.
Definitely, I felt like Greg. I felt like I was cheating the system on that one, watching it. I think I didn't watch it until 2016. I had it on a hard drive floating around when I was still in the Air Force, and I think that it just sat there, like I never got around to it, just because like yours is at that point too, where everyone was like, all the media was coming in, you could just watch anything. Everyone was giving you hard drives, and you just carry stuff over, because when you're on the road or on a plane all the time, like you need something to watch, and there's just always new stuff. And Lost just sat there on my hard drive forever.
Just doesn't. I don't know why, and I know it's not, but when I look at it, I think it's a like a reality TV show. I think it's like what's the
Survivor.
TV? Survivor. I just think of Survivor, and I'm
Same
like,
here,
okay,
yeah.
and I don't like reality TV. It's I don't know, man. Like I want to go back and watch. I mean, you know my rule though. I like to wait like 7, 8, 9 years after a show's that everybody said was amazing the entire time it was out comes out. If you're still talking about it 7, 8, 9 years later, then I might give it 2 weeks of my time and binge it for 2 weeks. But it's not worthy of my time until it's ripened 7, 8, 9 years later.
That's why I get my cha-ching in with Expanse all the time. Like, you should watch that show.
Yeah, I know. I started reading the book. I never finished it.
You're robbing yourself. If you like anything that's space related, you're robbing yourself.
Yeah, I like space.
That was the other trailer that came out. The animated Babylon 5 trailer. So if anyone's a Babylon 5, there you go.
That's one thing I never got into.
Watched it. Yeah,
I never got into that.
Same way with like Battlestar.
Yeah, I just never really got into that.
I want to go down that path, but same thing. Like we talk about, like how does it hold up? So I'm hoping that whenever I start it, like I feel like it still holds up.
Well, the problem is there's never time for new stuff. Like there's always so much new stuff coming out. You can't ever go back and be like, okay, I want to watch this. Like me and my wife go back and watch an old movie every once in a while. But I mean, beyond that, there's no time to go back and be like, okay, I want to watch this series from a long time ago because there's so much new stuff coming out. It's I don't know. It's weird.
My thing is, if I try to go back and watch something that's older, I start comparing it to like the newer stuff because I'm like, okay, like case in point, I'm really gonna go way back. Knight Rider. The very first episode, Michael Knight, it wasn't Hasselhoff, it was a different guy. Because something happened or whatever, and then he got recast and all this kind of stuff. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, what in the hell? I'm like, this is wild. Because I mean, it's just the age on it. Some things age well, and some things are like, wow, that is absolutely a product of its time.
Yeah.
But kids,
did you ever watch the new one?
I don't think I did. It's just like
there's a new
like
one?
Magnum PI.
No.
My mom's all about network TV, so she watches all that. She watches that stuff, and it's like Hawaii 5-0 and just like a lot of these old classic ones. Because I'm like, as far as like Magnum PI, I'm like, I just can't get into that. I just can't. I mean, I'm like, it's not Tom Selleck. It's not the Hawaiian shirt with the caterpillar mustache and the Ferrari. This is just not the same.
I wanted to remake MASH, but update it to this day and age.
Good luck with updating to this day and age.
Yeah, that would be pretty wild.
Like that'd be fun. I don't know. MASH was always a fun show.
Yeah,
Night Court.
Really
They're actually redoing Night Court right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's got Bernadette.
And I think John Larroquette's still on there too.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yep.
They're always trying to bring back old stuff.
I mean, there's like nostalgia to some of that stuff, but I mean, it's just like I said, it's sometimes when you do these remakes, it loses its magic. It's just not it's just not the same.
No.
I know you're trying to put a fresh spin on it, and like I said, my mom, she thinks even my dad's been watching like the Magnum PI. They're like, "Oh, it's really great," but I'm like, "Is it really?"
Is it though? Yeah.
It's like MacGyver. It's like MacGyver. You know, it's like it's just not the same.
It's like saying Indiana Jones is good because Indiana Jones used to be good. You know? Sorry.
No, it's not like that. Hold on. No.
It's like people who said the last movie was good, excuse me, just because they loved Indiana Jones. It's
no,
like,
because
Indiana
it's not really
movie.
it's not really like a reboot. Like it's the reboots that really. I see where you're
That's
going
true.
with it, but
Indiana Jones wasn't a reboot. That's a very good point.
it was just a very late sequel.
I wish I should have taken a snapshot of both y'all looking at me when I said that. Because I know both y'all y'all were both like look at me like, what the fuck is he talking about?
Like
Greg's on his own squirrel chase now.
Yeah, well, you know. All right, do we got anything else news, movie, or news trailer wise?
No. All I can say is watch From when you get a chance. Good show.
Check it out. You know the rule. I just gotta get Ashley to watch a few episodes of it and get into it, and we're good. The problem is we're rewatching, or not rewatching. We're watching for the first time Yellowstone. I watched like the first season, but then I didn't have Peacock, like the paid service, so I never got to watch any more of it. So now we're burning through Yellowstone right now, which is a fantastic show. But I don't think we're gonna get off that until it's pretty good. Yeah. It's very good. Better nights.
Really good things about it.
Yeah, 1883 and 1923 are really good too. I like 1883 the best so far out of everything I watched. But
that's what I've heard most people say.
Yeah, it's really, really good. I mean, Tim McGraw does an insanely great job acting in that movie. And Faith Hill does too. So,
but can you hear the rain?
Is that the rain?
I am.
Oh man, it's probably coming.
I'm in red.
Yeah.
No, it's not going your direction.
You're west of me, and I'm west of Sarah, so it's probably coming our way.
Yeah, it is. This is. Can you hear it?
I can hear it. Yeah.
I hear something. Yeah.
Well,
I hear dogs. I hear dogs snore now. They were fighting down there snoring. So yeah.
That's good stuff. See, I got my sleep right there. Yeah, and sleep right here. I'm good. Well, do y'all want to hop into the shows? I only got two. Well, we get to double dip into one because I didn't do my homework last week.
All right. Well, you didn't. You watched all three of them. So which one do you want to talk about?
Look, see, Kev expresses the same thing. Yellowstone's great. 1883 is the best. Yep. Yeah, Kev says he can hear it too, but oh well, life.
Sorry.
Let's do, since we had 2 episodes of Strange New Worlds, let's do Secret Invasion first, and it's only 1 episode. Knock it out.
Okay.
I'll start this one out. I did not know what to expect. I thought I was going to get more of a Winter Soldier vibe, just from the previews of this show. Winter Soldier is my favorite MCU movie, and it didn't disappoint. I got like Winter Soldier vibes. Like, I am genuinely thrilled to see what happens in this show. I think they're doing a great job. The story was great so far. It left me wanting more as soon as it happened and questioning what the hell's going on. I was impressed with the story. Of course, there's always things that can be changed in every story. So it wasn't perfect, but it's one of the best shows I've seen Marvel put out, at least first episode of the show in a while. To be honest with you, I really enjoyed it. What about you, Sarah?
I'm gonna have to go back and watch it again. So like I told you guys, it's like I was kind of cooking in the midst of it. So I was trying to pay attention to what was going on. All I just kind of saw was like just people talking. I'm like, oh shit, I got to pay attention to this one. So it's like I'm probably gonna go back and I might rewatch it in the morning just to see what I missed, because I feel like I've missed something. Because typically I sit down and I like try to pay attention. I can't multitask when it comes to things like that unless I've seen it before. So I don't. It looks interesting. It looks like more of the espionage, that kind of thing. So I don't know. Every time I kept looking up, I'm like, oh shit, that's not who that was. Damn, I need to pay attention.
Yeah, they change a lot in the show for sure.
Yes.
What'd you think, Ross?
Number one, I didn't know they had done such an in-depth marketing campaign, like in real life. So they had people dressed up as scrolls everywhere. They even had them at the what was the last thing that they were at? Oh, the Guardians of the Galaxy premiere. They had, There's a picture. There's a scroll standing in the background, like far off on like stage left, and it's just back there. Like you have all the artwork and all the people up there, and there's a scroll, and like they started the marketing campaign like way back early in the year. So I thought that was really cool. The show itself, a lot of people have said that it has started out slow, which, yeah. But right there to Kev's point, it's only 6 episodes, so they got some. I'm hoping some real good plot twists and cliffhangers and stuff that they're gonna throw out there for us. But it's definitely meant to catch on the Winter Soldier vibe, but still be able to take you to a place to where, I guess, questions that you didn't really know that you had, other than like where's Nick Fury and all this other stuff. Like, what's really going on in the background?
Yeah. Well,
I think all that's intriguing.
Yeah. I think it's interesting you say that people say it started slow, because I honestly felt like it felt like a penultimate to me. I mean, okay,
I
maybe
thought it
not,
was good. I liked it. I liked the
maybe
pace
not the
of it.
entire episode. Yeah, I'm not saying you didn't like it. Maybe not the entire episode was fast paced, but it felt like this was like a movie compressed into like a 55-minute episode. With like a definite sequel coming up with the way it ended, which we'll get into, and everything else. A lot of action going on. This is a movie that I feel like if you don't know anything about the Marvel Universe coming into this movie, you will be lost. Like, they're expecting people that are coming into this show to have a good knowledge about the Marvel Universe, because they don't do introducing characters. It's just straight into it right from the get-go. And it's cool because I imagine that if you're watching this, you probably do have a good knowledge of the Marvel Universe. And if you don't, guess what? It's on Disney. And you have the whole thing, you can go watch the whole thing. So, but I thought it was actually really well paced. The beginning was kind of story, laid some stuff out, and then at the end it was a lot of action. That kind of had a surprise.
I'm not happy with that surprise at the end.
Like, I'm not either, but I don't believe it. I don't believe it. We can jump right to it, or we can.
Yeah, we'll work through it.
Okay, we can jump right to it. I don't care. We don't got rules.
All right. I love Kobe Smulders. I love her character in most of everything that she's ever been in. I finally got around to watching that Friends from Work show on Netflix. Friends from College show that was on Netflix. She does a great job. I love How I Met Your Mother. Like, I love that show. Sure. It's a great show, and she has always played a really good role in that. So many of my memories from that show are of her. And so when you have her play the small part that she had in this universe, like, it's always been great scenes for her. It's always like, that is not authorized, is always stuck in my head. Like the moment to where, that the plane's going to take off at the end in the original Avengers movie. And it's a phrase of the day I love saying. Like, it just, when someone asks me something or like starts to do something, like I will belt that out in a heartbeat.
Right.
But to see her have such a role in this, because it's probably her biggest role since Winter Soldier, and then just get shot at the end, like that was like, I don't want to say it was gut wrenching, but I'm like, oh no, like, don't do that. Like, I love Hill. She's so good.
Yeah. And not even just get shot at the end. They just left her.
Yeah.
I was expecting her to like change into like a squirrel or something. I was like, and
that's that right there. What you said is going to be the whole thing for this season. This whole
because it seems like everybody else was. I was like, well, damn, why is she?
Agreed. And
on that.
They're really throwing you for a loop, because at the very end it does say guest starring Colby Smulders, or whatever her name is. So Colby. Yeah, so like, was she just in this one episode? Like, is she actually dead? I don't think she is. She may be dead right now, but I don't think she's out of this universe, because
unless she's throwing the
like Coulson.
Yeah, they killed Coulson.
Unless she's throwing the articles off and telling people things that aren't real. I mean, she's basically come out and said that, as far as she knows, this is it. So she could be doing the whole misdirection thing, which I hope she does. I don't think that there's any problem with people, pulling an Andrew Garfield and, saying whatever they want to say and then basically proving everybody wrong once it comes out. I don't think lie about it for the sanctity of the story.
Yeah, it kind of spoils it if she says, well, yeah, I'm dead, but, I have plans with Marvel in the future. It's like, well, okay, then you just took all the stakes out of your death. But yeah, that was a crazy moment. I do love how they've advanced Nick Fury in this universe. From the moment you saw him in, the first little cameo he has, and I guess it was the Iron Man movie. I don't even know which movie it was, his first cameo, to right now. I love how we've grown with this character. This season or this series seems like there's a lot more to the Nick Fury story that we don't know about yet. There were a few things they hit on pretty well with this, like, okay, the scene where Nick Fury comes down in that forest, in that field, and he comes off the saber or the spaceship or whatever. That is just like the scene I was telling y'all about in the comics, where Wolverine and all those characters came down that were up in space doing the mission in space. It looked exactly like it. And I was like, oh, as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, they're gonna do something here. And of course, there's Nick Fury, but it's cool. I do wonder what they're gonna do with Spider-Woman, if she's gonna be in this series at all. They're gonna hint to it at all. She's the Queen of the Skrulls, so it'll be interesting to see what they do with this. That I don't think they're gonna hint at it at all. I think this is gonna be mainly a Fury-focused story, which I'm cool with, because based on the first episode, I'm really enjoying the direction they're going. I just don't know, man. Like, what y'all think as far as Nick Fury? Like, is he?
I love how they aged him. I mean, I love how, like, he's old, but that's why I say that's part of the story that I have always had questions about after Endgame, what it did for him. Because you see him at Tony's funeral, and then you don't see him in any of these other movies that have come out. Like, he's non-existent, but he hasn't needed to be there. Like, there's been no good reason for him to show up. He could have probably swung something in Ant-Man, but most of that was in the Quantum verse. So I mean, like, none of the things that have been out have been in his wheelhouse. You could probably have gotten him in Miss Marvel, maybe in WandaVision, but I mean, like, well, like, all the TV shows he could have shown up in, but the whole point is, like, he's not been there. So it's definitely, where's he at now? Like, what is he doing? And if he truly is just up in space, like, trying to create this thing, I was more taken aback by the Rhodey and the president sitting there just openly talking about it in the hallway.
Yeah.
If I know that it's a show about comic book people, but I'm sitting there thinking too, I'm like, they're just openly discussing this right here as they're walking.
Don't care who hears this. Kev asked in the chat, he says, why do you think he doesn't have an eye patch anymore? I don't know. I noticed that too. I think it's because now we saw the moment where he got his eye scratched out, and they want to emphasize on that. Like, look at the prosthetics we can do and the makeup we can do to make it look like he has the little 3 scratches right here. Who knows? I don't think it's a bad look. It makes him look older.
I dare say that it's because eye patches aren't cool anymore. I feel like they should always be cool. But,
true. It's probably why I got rid of the cape and the long coat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't need a duster in space. There ain't no dust.
That's right.
Actually, there's dust everywhere. Nice. But anyway.
Yeah.
Sarah, what did you think of Fury?
Well, from like the couple of times I paid attention, I mean, he's always been an odd character to me, because it's like, I don't know, he's like one I never kind of really got. He's just always kind of like, like that shadowy figure that pops up every now and again, that kind of thing. So, yeah, the more I think about it, it's like, I'm going to have to go back and watch this again so I can really get a good feel for it. Because, yeah, I was a little lost as to what was going on. But, I mean, this part of Marvel's not really, is, how you guys say, you like the Winter Soldier. That really wasn't one of the things that was my favorite.
Okay.
So it's like, I like more of the, I don't know, I guess like the true superhero parts of it, like Iron Man and Thor and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
I mean, that's just, like, like the whole espionage and like S.H.I.E.L.D. thing and all that kind of thing, that really didn't, pull me in. So this is going to be something that I'm really going to have to probably pay attention to, because it didn't really grab me to begin with. So it's kind of like I said, this might be one, even though it's 6 episodes, I mean, it might be, the second one, maybe that's what will kind of take me to get, into it. But I don't know. We'll see. I'll have to circle back around next week.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of this universe and how big it is you don't have to love everything in it. You can still love a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah. They cater to a lot of different crowds. Kevin in the chat says, I heard they told the showrunner not to read Secret Wars. Okay, and that makes me wonder right there, because if I'm not mistaken, I think Secret Wars is when Spider-Woman comes into the whole thing as Queen of the Scroll and all this stuff. I'm not positive. Secret Wars has so many different stories and little side stories running off the main storyline. But Secret Wars is different than Secret Invasion. So if he's right in that, I'm wondering why they told the showrunner not to watch, or not to read Secret Wars.
Well, there's a good chance that they laid out a choose your own adventure thing here, and they're like, hey, don't know where this is going, but try to figure it out yourself. And then when we'll read your ends of your story, and if we don't like them, then we'll tell you no. And then as long as you're not like way too far off the mark, we'll give you essentially free reign and see what happens. Which I love as a creative standpoint, but there has to be some sort of there's got to be white lines on the road. You got to know when you're veering off. So I think the only other thing I can say about Fury, really, before we move on to that, anything else, is that you do see him. What I liked about him is that he always was. They always said he was 5 steps ahead, 3 steps ahead, whatever. And this show definitely makes it seem like he's not. So,
well, yes and no.
It does right now.
I
think that he's definitely picking up the pieces, but he's also just showed back up on Earth. So
right, they definitely. They hint at, of course, or not hint at, but they show, of course, the physical abilities he has, that he's getting older and losing, but they really try to stress on the fact of like the moment that he was snapped, like he's different since then, and you don't really know what exactly it is quite yet. There's something different about him. Don't know if he knows it. He hadn't admitted it yet. I don't know. But he even says in that moment where the lady catches him, she's like, you used to be 3 steps ahead and you would have seen my guys. And he's like, well, I let him catch me so I can get to you.
Yeah.
It's like, well, okay. I can buy that, like, because you didn't seem scared at all or fight. So it's like, well, okay, maybe.
Just talk about a scene that just kind of stood out, right? Like dark alley, and then bright kid with a bright ball. You're like, is this it? Like, did this just happen? Like, are we? Where's the red balloon? And then of course you knew something was going to happen.
Right.
But, they are paying special attention to certain things. Like you see him limp. Like he's getting old. Like it sure seems like they're trying to play off of that moment in Captain Marvel in the 90s where he took like a squirrel hit into the side of a kneecap, and these things are slowly aging him, like all the elements that you've seen him
years later,
actually get hit. So I like that attention to detail.
Yeah, Marvel's good at that. They pay pretty good attention to detail. Trying to think what else about this show. We talked about Colby. We talked about Nick Fury.
The beginning was Ross and that Prescott character.
Did we see Ross again the entire episode?
No,
I didn't think so. I wonder if that's his only appearance.
But it was interesting to see. I don't think it's gonna be like there has to be more to him. Like,
I like him as a character.
He's got to fall into this camp of the. I know that he's just got to fall in the camp of these people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see him go any other direction unless he's going to hang out in Wakanda the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
The shape-shifting. I was going to talk about that because that was basically the next thing, is that we saw the shape-shifting between Ross dying, Skrull, and like just the shape-shifting throughout the show.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was excellent. It really made me buy into the belief. Like, it's gotten really good now where you could have someone like, Morph from X-Men, or you could have Mystique played out really well. Like, it seems like the technology is really getting to a point where, like, I'm kind of really okay with the way that all this shape-shifting is going on.
Yeah. Well, they didn't do a ton of like close-up shape-shifting. A lot of it was like walk behind this object and you walk by, you come out of something else. So they didn't have to focus a lot on that. They did a great job on that. I thought that they did it really well. And I'm not knocking the way it works, because you're right. It does look fantastic. I don't know. I kind of forgot my point where I was going with that. Just that I guess that they they did a good job. You're right. I'd like to see it more happening on the face, where you actually see the transition.
Yeah.
You know, that's more. But once again, I know it's expensive, and that's how
I
things
think
go.
you're going to get it as time goes on, because I mean, a lot of things kind of take, they it's like Transformers, right? Like, they give you the cinematic, everything changes to fit into like the face,
Mhm.
then like, the mouthpiece comes down at the very end.
Mhm.
You're probably going to get a couple of those that are very well done, but most of those kind of be probably like, Thomas Crown Affair, misdirection of everyone is basically just switching behind, walking behind something, because it probably is a whole heck of a lot easier for sure. But at the same time, you get the point. Like, your brain is okay with it.
Man, I tell you something. You just blew my mind, Kev, in the chat room. She asked what I think about Amelia Clark. What I think about her. Do you think she set them up? Didn't even put two and two together. That yeah, until just now. Yeah. Wow.
Craig,
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about that.
you talk about it, because now I'm broken inside.
I mean, she plays the daughter, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe just me not paying attention. The different, like, I'm sitting here looking at a picture right now of her with the hair color, the dark hair like she had in this show, and then the picture from Game of Thrones, and I'm like, it's a different person. It throws me off that much. That's why I just didn't even put two and two together. It's a different person to me. They look like two totally different people. I don't know. It's weird. Maybe because
Well,
her hair's
apparently
not up
Kev
in
is
like.
breaking news for Greg on our own show.
Yeah, I mean that was crazy. Do I think she set them up? Unintentionally. I don't think so. So the premise of this is like Talos, who's the I guess the scroll that's the good guy that's trying to or sided with the good guys on our side, and his daughter has joined this allegiance of scrolls who want to bring what do they call it? Scrollia or something.
Scrollos.
Scrollos, yeah, creative name. Scrollos to Earth, I suppose, or and
That sounds like a condition.
yeah,
Yeah.
and she's part of it, and I guess she was the one who's going to actually deliver these bombs, which they talked about these bombs like starting a war.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what happens with this. And it seems at some one point she's going to change sides and help them, and then we see the chaos that ensues at the end with the decoys. I don't think she set them up on purpose. If that is my opinion, I think that she really meant to help them, but they knew that she was going to do that.
I feel like, oh man, what's the bad guy's name? Starts with an M. I feel like it starts with an M, right? Anyway, I feel like he
Malvik or something like that.
something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
He set her up because he's got to seem like he can outdo Fury, right? In order for him to seem like a legitimate bad guy, then he needs to be thinking all these steps ahead. And if that was not Amelia Clark who showed up to talk to her dad in the taxi, if it was, like anyone else,
Mm-hmm.
like there's a chance that it was him posing as her.
Oh, good point.
We know that they can shapeshift in the same skin, but we know that the whole point of this weird taser chamber thing that they have is so that they can know everything that they could possibly know, so that they're much better camouflaged as humans. There's no reason why he can't just go and turn into whoever he wants. And so I think that's kind of much more of a setup, because how else do you make yourself look like you can defeat Nick Fury?
Right.
So if he's thinking all these steps ahead.
Yeah, that's actually a really, really good point I didn't think about, because I was kind of looking at it and I was thinking about it too. I was like, I don't know what her ranking was on like their
Didn't seem
thing,
like it was very high.
but it didn't seem like it was very high, and they were trusting her with some pretty high value stuff for their plan. Like basically, if you don't deliver, we're fucked. And I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy. They're trusting her with that, but that's a good point. That may have been him, whatever the guy's name is. I can't remember. Big M, the big
I'm
bad.
trying to look for it, but it doesn't show up in here.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Being shapeshifters, yeah, that's good. And no, I did not know that was Amelia Clark. Like I'd heard the name, but just looking at the face, I was like, I didn't see it. And then as soon as you said it, I was like, wait a second. Wow. Okay.
There we
Does
are.
she not age? Like at all? She looks like she's like 17 in this show.
I guess when you ride the dragon, you don't age a whole lot.
That's true. That's true. She's probably riding the dragon. But yeah, I'm excited for this. I like the way things are going. I like the way things look. 6 episodes. I'm not dissatisfied with 6 episodes because I feel like that's going to leave a lot less space for filler. I'd rather have 6 solid episodes and 8 episodes with some filler in it. And I feel like if you can give me 6 episodes at this pace with this good storytelling, I'm right there for it. Interested to see how it ties in everything and where it finishes at the end. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. I only have a couple flaws. The biggest one, that the whole point of this is that they can't find a planet for the squirrels. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I think it was on, I don't remember where I saw it, but even someone was like, hey, what about the planet that Thanos was on whenever he went to go to his little homestead? Right?
Well, I don't
Like,
think it's that they can't find it. I think they stressed that Nick Fury stopped looking, and so did Captain Marvel. They just gave up on their promise. I think that was the whole point. Yeah, I know.
there's a whole species of them, and they're going to blame it on 2 people who didn't try hard enough.
Agreed. Agreed. What else? You got any other? You said you had some complaints.
Well, they killed Hill, unfortunately. Homegirl was rocking the Dogma look the whole time with the hoodie and the long jacket. You got I like the fact that her name was Gaia, the daughter.
Mm-hmm.
That was a nice little play on things. And then
what was that a play on?
Well, Gaia is like a Mother of Earth type thing.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Well, there you go.
What was it? Captain Planet, right? Gaia was the.
I remember the theme song for Captain Planet, but I don't remember specific scenes. Yeah,
Speaking of, did you ever watch the one with Rhodey, Don Cheadle playing Captain America, or Captain Planet? You gotta watch it. You gotta. It's a spoof. It's hilarious. Watch it.
I'll check it out.
Oh, and the fact that they went back to Kazakhstan, I get the pronunciation right, for another nuclear problem because they're like immune to radioactivity. It's like it's always Kazakhstan, always.
Well, I mean, because they brought up a good point that there's so many. They set this precedence now that there's so many Russian nuclear sites, failed or abandoned nuclear sites that they can use. So it's a great hiding spot, and then a lot of them are on the map. So I think they actually set that up pretty well. What you think, Sarah? Any last thoughts?
I'm gonna circle back with y'all on that one. Because like I said, you guys are hitting a lot
give
of
it a second viewing.
Damn it, I need to pay attention.
Gotta give it a. Oh, I understand. I totally understand.
Because it sounds like some stuff that I'm like, if I paid attention, I probably could have put just 2 and 2 together. But
well, I'll tell you what. Next week
we'll dive. It's not going to work for me.
Next week rewatch it before next week's episode.
Yeah, we'll dive back into
one. Yeah, I'll probably watch it in the morning. I'll probably get up and have my coffee and whatever, and I'll just throw it back on and be like, okay, I'm gonna watch this now.
Yeah. Well, what we'll do with you next week is what we're doing with me this week on Strange New Worlds, where we got to dive back in episode 1. Because I was didn't get to watch it last week.
Well, like I said, we'll see how tight these episodes are too. Like you said, if it's only 6 episodes per season, I mean, each episode should be pretty tight.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, it'll just kind of like go from one and just flow right into the other one. So it might be kind of interesting.
Yeah, I don't expect a lot of gap in story, so we'll see what happens. Well, do y'all want to go ahead and move on to Strange New Worlds then? We got 5 more weeks of Secret Invasion. I'm actually going to go back and read the comic series right now because I'm just so curious about what's going on. I want to see how closely they hit certain points. But we'll keep up with it. Let's hop into Strange New Worlds.
Take it away. Tell us what you thought about last week's.
Man, really awesome episode. I felt the same way about Strange New Worlds as I did about Secret Invasion. I felt like the opening episode felt like a penultimate. It was action-packed. I was edge of my seat. I didn't know what was going on. The storytelling was great. I just loved everything about the first episode. And Pike wasn't even in it. Like, you could tell that great story without Pike even being in it. It was amazing. Well, I guess he was for just a few minutes. But I love the way they told this. Star Trek does a good job of making me, like, in my head, I can look at something and be like, okay, I think they're going to do this, this, and this. But if they do this, how are they possibly going to explain this? And somehow or another, by the end of the story, they've explained it to me and it works out well. But like when I'm watching this episode and you see the point they're at where they got to shoot down their own Federation ship to be able to stop to not hit the Klingon ship, and it's like, okay, you've been caught. How are you going to walk and talk your way out of this? And then of course Spock actually does it. It's like, okay, this first episode was a very Spock centric episode, completely about Spock, set to establish him as a character in this universe. I really enjoy the guy who plays him. I think he does a great job of Spock. I like his role in this show. Second episode was a lot different, but I want to break down some of the first episode before we get in the second one. I thought, so the way I understand it is this is like a nutrient rich world of whatever material or resource
Dilithium.
everybody can use. Dilithium, okay, everybody can use. And the Klingons and the human race, or the Federation, take turns mining it.
Mm-hmm.
So they can at least be civil enough to do that. Like, it's weird because from what I've always seen in Star Trek is like the Klingons, you don't fuck with the Klingons. Like, you just don't.
Like Klingons and Romulans, you don't mess with neither one.
Yeah, okay, I'm okay. I got this Klingons, Romulans, Borg. Those are like the big three in Star Trek, right? Okay, yeah. Like, you just don't mess with the Klingons, you know? Like, and on this episode, it was like, well, we can live peacefully. We don't like each other. We can live peacefully. As long as you can prove yourself to me. There is a glaring problem in this episode that I'll bring up as we go down. Ross, you might be thinking.
I think we're there too.
Yeah. But anyway, let's break it down. What do you think overall the first one? Because I know y'all held off not talking about it last week, so I could see it. So, what y'all think about this season 2 premiere of Strange New Worlds?
Well, I mean, I like the fact that they, it carried on from the end of season 1. It was interesting to see Klingons in this one too, because it's the one thing I like about Klingons is it seems like every series has a different iteration of what they look like as far as their ridges. And I mean, because if you think Klingon, I mean, number one, 9 times out of 10, if anybody knows anything about Star Trek, you always think of Worf. You always think of like the Next Generation. You always think about, the way they look, with their ridges and stuff. With Kalis and, with all this, with Gowron and, all that. Which, I mean, with any Star Trek property, this, I always look at and see what the aliens look like, because, you have certain mindset. So it was really cool to see that, with the Klingons, like, they were kind of really no different. But it's just, the one thing I like about Strange New Worlds is the episodic feel. Is the fact of, you've got this tight-knit crew, which, I mean, that's a very Star Trek thing unto itself. And, to put in a situation like this, because it's that type of episode where you've got a beginning, a middle, and an end. So it starts with a problem, and then you got to build up to, okay, well, and usually you always have like, another character that'll pop up, whether it's one, in this case, a crew member from, someone they knew, or either someone that, just kind of pops in that kind of, changes the, just changes how the everything turns out. And then also you had the end. So, I mean, that's just the one difference of, Greg, probably what you've seen anything with Star Trek thus far, is each episode has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And yes, I'm starting to see, especially going into the second episode, which we'll get there, you still have like this one little river, that kind of storyline river that runs through it as well. So, I mean, that's one thing that I'm glad they're kind of, really sticking with. And even when you do see Pike, yes, he is rocking the Johnny Bravo.
Yes, looking good.
That's what I'm going to get my haircut next time. I'm going to be like, I need the Pike.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But there's some styling involved with that. That's not just
You gotta watch where you say that at, though. If you walk in somewhere asking to give you the Pike, it's like, oh. Yeah.
So what do you think? I love him. I love him. I love him to death. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, honestly, I don't have an issue with any of the actors that play any of these roles in this show. I think they all really do a good job of their character, and I think they knock it out of the park. What do you think, Ross? Overall,
If there were to be a captain that would be like, I think that would be like Pike. I think Shatner was a little too. I don't know, he was Shatnery, right? And then you had the version of Kirk in the movies, and he was definitely all caution to the wind. And Pike definitely seems like he's even killed and has a pretty good idea of he's got a plan in his head, and it doesn't clearly always work for him. Like last season they did a pretty good job of him kind of being put out of place, but things just worked out for him. He fell upwards. This episode I said last week was like a movie. Like it felt like it could have been a movie. A very short one. They could have definitely blown up the detail. I love every little bit of it. You start off with seeing Starbase 1, that flyby coming through there. I'm like, oh, I love this. I want to see it. I love that scene. Everything. I love how they focused on Mbenga and Nurse Chapel. I love their little side story they had in this. I love what they did with Spock. I love how they brought in Carol Kane. Like, Carol Kane is in Star Trek, and she's an engineer, and she's a Lanthanite.
she's happy to be there too. Let me tell you.
You're right. The Klingons were definitely that's a moment to where you're waiting to see it. You want to see it unfold, and then you get to see it's telling you everything, and you're seeing all of this. Was it Kajitar? That was the world. You're seeing it all happen. Then boom, he's on the screen with the dreads, and you're like, yeah, okay. That's ripping the Band-Aid off, I can't remember what was the last movie that they were in, but one of the JJ verse movies, same thing, you're sitting there waiting for it and waiting for it and waiting for it. And then you see him and you're like, yeah, I like this better. I think, cause it felt more, it merged TOS and TNG for me.
Okay.
It takes the original series and then ties in the Next Generation Worf look. So there was just, the scene with Mbenga and Nurse Chapel and the super soldier serum, and knowing all of the past that he's just suppressing, and just watching the two of them go to town on some Klingons. I mean, I'm just like, they are getting it right now. I love the emotion and everything else that they had in the scenes. There was just so much. I love the episode last week. That's why I wanted to talk about it. I'm like, I'm sorry you didn't see it. I want to talk about it. It's so good.
It was, like I said, it felt like a penultimate. To be honest with you, it was that good. It was really, really good. Minga, with the stuff in the past, did I miss that in a season before about his past? Am I supposed to? Do y'all know from prior knowledge about something like this? Like, from what I understand,
from Mbenga?
Yeah. Okay. Because from what I understand is he even says to that Klingon, I guess he's testing him to find out how tough he is. And he's like, oh, if you were there, you would be alive. And then he explained, are we to believe that he actually was there and did survive that?
Oh yeah.
Or was he just telling a good lie?
So the Klingons and the Federation had a war, and essentially that war ended up with them at a peace treaty. So they don't they're not partners, which is what we'll circle back around to that in a minute. They're not partners, and they basically just have a peace treaty, meaning they can occupy their own sectors of space, which Lord knows how that works. But yeah, there's a dark history there, and I didn't know all the full background between him and Nurse Chapel. She was there too.
Well, see, that's what you're going to get in this with these different episodes. You're going to start seeing more bits and pieces of everybody's little backstory. It's the same. It's kind of it kind of reminds me a little bit of DS9, because since there was, you had a prior war, so therefore you have that history, and you're kind of just learning that little bits and pieces of each character, and how you're starting to learn that okay, well, they've served together before, they even last season with Pike and Number One, they knew each other prior, But now you're starting to see that some of the other crew, they knew each other prior. They had been through other things as well, because even though the Federation, it's not really like militarily based. A lot of like the rankings and stuff, it is very similar.
Oh yeah.
Because you did have wars. I mean, you do have. I mean, like I said, you do have officers. I mean, there are certain, certain things. So you're starting to learn a lot of the camaraderie that a lot of these, they have. You're starting to see like the little bits and pieces of their backstories, and it's just gonna. And like I said, you're gonna get in bits and pieces. That's what's so cool about this, because even though with it's episodic, that's how you start learning more about these characters.
Right.
Even with Spock, I mean, even though his background of where he's half Vulcan and half human, and typically his human side kind of like runs a little rampant over his Vulcan side. I mean, you start seeing those emotions, you start seeing that. I'm kind of glad that they're pretty much keeping Spock true to like the original series type thing. So I mean,
I
at
love
least
how they tied that in too with like last season, how he was losing his, he lost his stuff over the Gorn, and when he was, that rage left him, and he was able to just express it. Like he just basically, that was a crack in the floodgate, and then now it's just getting worse and worse and worse, and he's going to reach that Superman moment, to where he's got to be able to learn how to control it.
Well, and you kind of get that too. I think that he gets the advice from the Doctor in this one about how humans express emotion through song and through music, and you see him playing the harp in this, and you definitely see the romantic aspect of between him and the nurse. Like this is
rightfully so.
Yeah, but wasn't he was betrothed last season, right? And they split up, and then there was a little fling, or not a fling, but you saw a little something with him towards the end of last season, and then now it looks like you definitely see. So he's honing his emotions and to being human. It reminds me kind of like Zod or Superman, like you just said. You Superman. Yeah, it's a great way to look at it. You got to hone your skills to what you can.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring up earlier.
Scott. That's the thing about Spock, because he always kind of lived in two different worlds. Because you've got a Vulcan, which they suppress emotion, then you got humans that are nothing but emotion.
Yeah. I love what they're doing with Spock, period, across the board. I've loved every bit of it. Like this, like you said, this actor is doing a great job. Knowing that the storytelling they're doing with Spock is fantastic. I love what they did on the next episode we're going to talk about. But this one, where he has a moment in the chair, I'm just like, I was sitting there like, I even saw it before in like a trailer, or like a coming soon thing, and I'm like, I was just laughing. I'm like, that's so Spock,
So that's what's so funny too, because the actor, I think I told you guys this before, it's Ethan Peck, which is the grandson of Gregory Peck. So that's why it's so interesting, because because the favoritism is very strong, and I'm just like, this is pretty cool, because if you ever seen any movies with Gregory Peck, and I mean, he has like this commanding presence or whatnot, and that's one thing I kind of see in this guy too, because the first time you meet him is in Discovery.
Yep.
When he's like, the long hair with the beard and all that kind of stuff.
With the
like,
beard.
Ooh,
oh yeah.
He's a bad guy on
Vulcan. I got this. Yeah. Like, woo.
Yeah, they did a great casting job with him. Like I said, it's cool seeing the progression of this character. I'm interested to see what they do with this love story going forward. Was there ever is Nurse Chapel? Is she a new character to this? So, okay, was she his love interest in the previous? No. Okay.
No.
Okay.
Nurse Chapel was played by Roddenberry's wife,
Mikhail Barrett,
in the original series, but I think she was only in the first season of the original series. I think she wasn't in there very long.
Okay.
Well, Nurse Chapel, I mean, it was kind of like one of those background characters.
Yeah,
like you'd hear the name, so it was never one in the forefront.
Right.
It was. Actually, I can't really say that. I don't want to say it was before, because I guess the leading medical officer has always been a very big part of the leading or the second in command, whoever would be like the most sensible person to have there. Like with Voyager, they had a hologram, that was always there. But there's so much, I mean, it's rich in the lore, but it's done in a way that just works very well right now. Like bringing Nurse Chapel back with Mbenga at the same time, like so good. And not only that, I didn't even know this. Mbenga is like a Brazilian jiu-jitsu like black belt or some crap like that.
He looks like a badass.
Like in real
He
life.
looks like a badass, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not somebody I want to mess with. Not even just looking after seeing him fight in the show. He just looks like somebody that kick your ass. You know?
He's got
Wouldn't
that
wanna mess with
persona.
him.
He's got that look.
All right.
Red
what
flag.
else?
Let's talk about him.
Yeah. Okay. And I actually think I
had
actually
two.
figured one of mine out as we were sitting here talking. I had an issue with the fact that the nurse and Mingo were like fucking people up with their super serum throughout the ship, and nobody knew like that the Federation was there. It was like, well, what's going on? But then again, I guess they weren't dressed in any kind of Federation stuff. You wouldn't have any way of knowing they were Federation. So I was like, okay, maybe I solved that one problem in my head. That was one of the glaring problems I saw. What about you, Ross? Red flags.
The first one is the big one, like the big one.
Mhm.
So, how do you have a timeshare on a planet between Klingons and Federation and not know that they're building a Federation ship in the caves? How do you go and not notice that an entire Federation ship is underground in the mines where they're like working together to mine dilithium?
They did it fast. Very, very
Maybe they
diligent work.
cloaked it. Maybe they
No,
cloaked it.
they cloaked
Yeah.
the Federation ship.
There
Yeah,
you
they
go.
put that on a Federation ship.
You
All
just
right.
explained it.
I love the story.
Mhm.
I love what they were trying to do. I bought it the whole time, but I'm like, how is that down there when they spend 30 days at a time on this sucker? How does this work out? If they would have given me like, you get 1 year on and 1 year off, maybe, but they basically said like monthly.
Yeah.
Because that's when they said, we'll go back and we'll give you the, we'll check out whatever's going on next time, our next time around.
Mhm.
The other one was a little bit smaller, but it was the, do you remember that moment where Mbenga's about to kill one of the Klingons, trying to get information out of him,
Yeah.
and he doesn't? But, then like the guy tells him where everything's at. And he's like, there's like 30 soldiers here, blah, 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 blah. Then he's like, there's
Yeah, he felt like a lawn chair.
phase rifles, and there's Klingon disruptors. I'm like, if you're a Klingon, you don't call them Klingon disruptors. You just call them disruptors.
Right.
Like there's Federation blaster, Federation phasers, and so when I was thinking about it, I'm like, almost like you guys almost had it perfect, dead on. And I'm not saying that like I 9 out of 10 love this episode, loved
Right.
it,
But nothing's
but
perfect.
it was those little things. I'm like, oh, what are we doing?
Yeah. Dang, there was one other thing I thought of while you were saying that. But yeah, I guess it's a good point. Like, I guess, Chinese people don't call it Chinese food Chinese food.
Yeah.
So
they call it
that's a
food.
good point. Yeah, they call it food. So yeah, I could see that. Dang, what was the other point that I had just thought about that we were talking about with this? I don't know. It'll come to me later. We'll get in the next episode, then it'll come to me. But
Well, then we get to the end and they do the trust fall out of the ship.
Mhm.
Spock looks like he's really like legitimately feeling bad that he's going to have to kill them, but he knows what it's all about.
Mhm.
He knows that it's going to save lives versus two. But they jump out, they find him. When she said, "Why you got to be so rough?" All I could think about was that song. Why you got to be so rude?
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
all I could think about. But then you had the very end. And that was knowing that the Gorn attack ship is on its way and no one's talking about it. So they're not going to punish Spock. Like he goes right back to the Star Trek thing to where it's like, you know what? You broke all these rules. Like you're horrible. You broke them all. But you saved us. So, like skid. We're going to erase that off the record. Like it's not going to exist. Like don't worry about that.
We didn't see anything.
Yeah.
Right.
And they did a good job explaining that the next episode too, not explaining it, but talking about it in different ways.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, man, if that's how the world worked, like that's such a Star Trek thing. Such a Star Trek thing.
No, that's how the world works. It just doesn't work that for everybody. It works like that for a
Don't worry like
select
that
group of
in
people.
Whatever
You know?
military world there is around that I've been in.
Well, yeah, okay. Maybe not in the military. I give you that. But think about that. It works like that in the military in every movie. Think about like Top Gun and everything else. Like
Oh yeah.
they're not following the rules. They're doing exactly what they shouldn't be doing, but because they
You
were
did exactly what I
successful-
told you not to do. I'm going to send you to the top flight school in the world.
Yeah, I mean stuff like that. So yeah, I get that. No, you're right. I mean that was one hole in the story right there. But I mean, if you don't do that, then you don't have a story.
I know.
Right?
It's not
So
Star Trek if you don't do that.
Can't pick it apart too much. All right, well, let's
very end, they gave Nichelle a shout out because this season was actually shot forever ago. Like I think this season is like a year old now.
Who is
it's
Nichelle?
just starting. So Nichelle was the original.
hero.
Yeah. So she was the one that passed away. I'm not even sure if it was in between seasons. Was it in between Strange New Worlds, or she might have passed away whenever Strange New Worlds was going on the first time? She was given. I can't remember. I mean, I don't want to say it's not super important, but I mean, like, it happened. So they did that because I just wanted to bring up the final point that there's season 3 already like happening. They announced that back in March that season 3 will be happening. So
yeah, I don't see them bring up a season up enough where even if season 2 wasn't that great, which based on how it started, it's gonna be. There's still you get a shot for season 3. Season 1 was so good, and this characters and the story so good. There's no way you don't do a season 3 with this. Yeah. Well, do y'all want to move on to the next episode then?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So this episode was not nearly as impressive for me. Still an okay episode. Stories there. It's I understand the point of everything. Star Trek, it got a little too political for me in this episode. I don't want to dive really any deeper than that, but it got a little too political. And I know you guys say that that's what Star Trek does. They take on real world stuff, but I kind of watch this stuff to get away from the real world.
Well,
you can have a
like
similar
the ideals
story
of Star Trek too. I mean, because it's the whole. You got to remember the timeline too, because it's kind of like in the beginning of the Federation.
Right.
It's not to where you are with like the Next Generation or Voyager or anything like that. So they're still kind of working towards. I mean, and it's like anything else. It's like I said, not to get too political, but it's kind of running the same vein of the way that the original series did, because there was a lot of things, as far as like acceptance and that, because really the Federation, that's kind of what they're based on. It's like you have all these different worlds coming together for this particular thing.
Right.
And so I think that's probably one. Yeah. So that was one of those things with this episode, with the Illyrians talking about, with the genetic modifications, which is interesting too, because I mean, spoiler to anybody that's never watched the S9, Dr. Bashir, it comes out to where he is genetically modified as well. So and that's something he didn't know about. So a lot of times it's like, with number one, she's like, I didn't ask for this. I mean, I'm still doing my thing. I'm proving, there's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing, especially with Dr. Sung. I mean, he, with his genetic modification, he's the epitome of why, the Federation was thinking the way they were, especially with the eugenics war. Okay. So but that's kind of what Star Trek is about, honestly.
Right.
It's like, taking everyone's differences and everybody coming together. So, I mean, that's why I kind of said this episode was like really, it was more Star Trek as far as like how the series was created. And because that was kind of one thing that Roddenberry wanted to kind of, I guess, illustrate, because there was, think about Next Generation or the original series in the 60s. There's a lot of shit that happened in that, because there's like one breakthrough episode that, it was a big no-no, but they're like, hey, we're going to, talk about this.
Michelle was a big person in that whole entire show.
Yeah, exactly.
You break the barrier down between, black, white, and everything else. And that the whole mindset is that, everything's universal. I've always said it is that you have Star Wars does things in a manner that it battles oppression in a boot on the neck kind of way, right? Like it's very much we're all being held down by, it's more like the fight of those in the power versus those without the power, So that's always been a Star Wars thing. Star Trek has always been about like equality and like prosperity for all. Like everyone is equal. We can all come to the table. We can all have a conversation. And, if you want to fight, then we can do that. But at the same time, like if you don't want to fight, then like we all need to find a way and a path forward. And, like to me, I watched it and thought it's very Star Trek. Like it's very, very much Star Trek.
Mhm.
But like I know that there are the political undertones in it. You can say that all day. That's fine. But I'm
Mhm.
not thinking that watching it, like, because I know, like, that's what this show has always been about. It's always been about tackling the stupidity of these things in the real world. Like, why do we have to have this? Why can't we? Like, we're never going to have a utopia because we can't think the way that they think. You know, it's always going to be a dystopia to where, you know, we're all going to sit here and it's all going to go back to, you know, why someone is better and why someone's getting the best of and why all these things are happening. Like, it just, that's always been my mindset. I want Star Trek future, but I don't think we will ever be able to
No.
achieve Star Trek
No,
future.
human
Like,
nature won't allow it. No.
exactly. And that's why you're right. It may make some people feel pulled back into reality, but for me, it doesn't, because I mean, like, everything that she said in that courtroom
Mhm.
made exact sense, you know, and the whole thing about the Illyrians being held down, it's right. Like, you know,
Mhm.
the whole era with Soong and the eugenics wars, like everything that happened in that period in Star Trek was really bad, and
Mhm.
it really shaped their point of view going forward. The problem is that, you know, you can't. It's the sins of the father on the child, right? Like that's always the next thing that you have to deal with is like that may have happened, but you also go back to that was a person problem, not a people problem. Like that
Anecdotally.
person
Yeah.
made very bad choices. You know, it goes right back to Khan. It goes right back to all these things. Like that was a person problem. That's what makes
Mm.
those people villains. The
Mhm.
whole race isn't the villain. And
Right.
so I was digging into all that in this episode. I mean, we went from a what I thought was like a great movie episode to an episode of Law and Order. And
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. Yeah.
we
I,
jumped into a very wide scope to a very, very narrow scope, and we needed it because, you know, we were left on the cliffhanger of last season. They had arrested Una, which I'm pretty sure I said last season. I'm going to go right back and say it again. The fact that her name is Una and she is number one, I mean, Una means one.
yeah.
You know,
There
like
you go.
it's like
Yeah,
here
I
we
like
are
that.
again. But the title, God,
I
Ad
can't remember the
Astra. Hold on,
something
I got
something.
this.
Yeah, you got part of it.
Ad Astra per Aspera, I think is
Yeah.
what it was.
Mhm.
And I think that is the thing that basically translates to the hardship in the stars or whatever it is what she said throughout the
Go to it's
episode.
like to the go to the stars through hardship or something along those
Mhm.
lines.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which was great. Like I love the way that this thing went full circle with the only thing I was left thinking is, did she do all of this on purpose and she let her friend to figure it out? Or, you know, because like I was interested the whole entire episode. Like, how are they going to wrap this up? How is
Mhm.
this thing going to, you know, where's the bow going to, you know, start to fold so we can see it? And man, if they didn't reach that point where she whipped that book out and
Mhm.
basically said, there are three things that you got to pay attention to. And she made that other woman read them off. Captain pay the,
Mhm.
no,
Mhm.
pet, whatever her name is, commander, made her read them off. And I'm like, oh, we are, we're in it. Like, she just basically said, fuck you in the courtroom.
Well, especially when you had that Vulcan pop up and say, "Oh, this is all about facts. This is not about emotion. It's blah blah blah," because you
Oh,
had some
that
very
thing.
heartfelt like character testimony from like who the doctor, and then of course from Spock, and then of course from the other, which she's
Lon.
a con, which is
Yeah.
very interesting. So it's just like some of she has to like deal with the same thing too. So and then you had
Which
that
Yeah.
I mean,
Vulcan
I
pop up
love
and
that little misdirection. You know, it's like, you know, with Lon knowing her past and
mm-hmm,
being that, I love that speech that the lawyer has with her in the room. I love it because she's basically saying you are made to feel bad because of the history of what like
mm-hmm,
your name means, and it's always been told to you that you're guilty. Once again,
mm-hmm,
father on the child type thing, and you really got to basically break out your box and realize that they can't make you feel bad because of that. Like you are your own person.
Yeah.
Like
mm-hmm.
open your eyes up to it.
Does it Does it not bother anybody else though? Like the way they wrap this story up, where she's the one who revealed herself to be Illyrian or whatever. And okay, I get the reasoning why you say you're doing that. It's a justifiable reason, but you realize you just risked how many people's careers and credibility on a hunch that you might be right. Like I just don't see how nobody else sees that as insanely selfish.
Wait, assuming that there are other Illyrians
No,
that
no,
are
I'm
actually.
assuming that had she not been found not guilty, the captain and everybody on the ship would have all been prosecuted and lost their jobs and probably gotten kicked out of
That's why I
like.
say,
So that's
did
what I'm
she
saying. Like,
mastermind this whole
does
thing?
nobody else see that? Right, you mastermind it assuming you're going to win, but you're taking a chance with everybody else's lives and careers. Based,
Well,
but like to do that to save your career it seems insanely selfish to me.
but that's what makes the stakes of this episode so high on such a boring
Yeah,
non-action episode.
you know before the episode even ends that she's going to win the trial.
But
That's the only thing that makes it suck because you know she's going to
I
win
don't
this
know.
trial no matter what. She's going to be back on the ship.
I
You know?
understand your point of view, but I was much happier by the payoff of it. I
Yes,
think that I was
yeah.
I
Well,
was
it's
lost.
Because
also
we got
another.
the result, the good result we wanted. But in
Well,
that
it's also another
situation, she
theme
doesn't know
throughout.
she's getting that. You know? Sorry, good.
Well, that's also another theme throughout too, because it's always like you've got this tight knit crew, and it's like it's everybody always looks out for each other. So
We're family.
yeah, pretty much. I mean,
We're
it's
family, but
I know it
if I'm
sounds pretty
found guilty,
crazy,
y'all
but
are
I
all
mean,
fucked. You know, like
just okay. Case in point, look at Picard. Look what Jean-Luc
He
asked
did.
everybody else to do.
he had
I mean,
I
it was
agree.
like
He was selfish in a lot of things he did. I agree.
that's what I'm saying.
And you
It's
didn't even
almost
watch
like
TNG, dude. Like you would know a whole lot more about all of that if you watched TNG. Like,
Probably. I mean, look, I didn't mind this episode. There were things about it I didn't like. I feel like they hit things on the head, like too directly on the head, on the nose. Like for the timing of when this episode comes out, the visuals they give, everything else, it's like, okay, you are really beating me over the head with these are good guys and these are bad guys. And it's like, okay, I got it. Like I see, and it plays right into what the stereotypical Hollywood is doing right now on political agendas anyway. So it folds right into that stereotype. That was my only issue with it. It wasn't a bad
mhm.
episode. Doesn't ruin the show for me by any means. But this episode was very, very on the nose, slanted towards one side of this is good, this is bad. Period.
welcome to Star
Well,
Trek,
it's
man.
like you got those ideas. Well, it's like you got those ideals. I mean, you can think about, it's when you have the her friend that was the lawyer, the attorney. I
Mira.
mean,
Mhm.
she was pretty cutthroat. I mean,
Yeah.
she was good. I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, can you defend me if I need somebody? So I mean, and the things that she was bringing up, and that even when she, basically put Admiral April on trial as well. I mean, it's like it was like at one point it was like, are you defending me or are you attacking Federation? So I mean, it's like you always have all these different agendas, and fortunately, it just kind of worked out the way it did,
Mhm.
as it did. But still, it's like you're putting that grain or that idea in somebody's head where okay, now we need to change, and and like I said, that's a Star Trek ideal,
Right.
of trying to make everything, not saying trying to make the world perfect. Like I said, trying to make not make
Trying to
this
progress.
utopia, but
Yeah.
exactly, it's
Yeah.
like
Trying to
here
progress.
you are, you're as a federation, you're stating, hey, we're accepting of everything, but to this point, and talking about how laws can always, at one point in time they, it's relevant. Now it's not because it's basically
Spock still.
defeating.
Yep. Last
Yeah.
episode.
So I mean, you're totally going against the ideals that you feel like that's on the basis for which you've built this federation.
Right.
But I mean, that's always just something that with Star Trek, that's what you always have those questions.
Right.
It's just like
And
the
there's-
very first episode, we're like, was it Farpoint or whatnot?
Mhm.
When the first time you meet Q, he puts humanity on trial.
Mhm.
and uses Picard as basically the whipping boy, and he's the one that puts him on trial. So I mean, that's always something that you've kind of, from the get-go.
Star Trek has always done all of these types of episodes in almost every type of their series that they have, and they do it for a specific reason. It is to challenge your thought, because they want. I mean, you can say it's targeted. That's fine, but they're always trying to challenge your thought. And I love what they did in this one episode, to where they challenged like my thought on what Mira's overall point to be there was. They you said that you weren't that big of a fan of like how much she put on risk. You saw it on her face when they started to put Una, when they said that, like, okay, well, if you're not going to take the plea deal, then like now you get to face not only being dishonorably discharged, but also 20 years in a penal prison. And so, everyone was kind of playing chicken, right? Like they even did it with Pike in the beginning, where he literally was playing chicken with Mira, trying to get her to show up and help with the oxygen thing. But I think that as a Law and Order style episode, like, it was very, very well done. Like I liked how all of that misdirection really helped to bring you to that point home. And I think that's why it was I loved how they built it up to that very end moment, to where you're like, yeah, she turned herself in. Yeah, it could have had detrimental effects, but that's what Mira's whole point of being there, or Mira, whatever her name is, whatever her point of being there is to show that there are cracks in all of this. And you know what? Sometimes it's okay to have cracks, but you just got to be able to like fix them and smooth them over before they bring everything tumbling down. And that's always been the best part of Star Trek, is that it's able to think logically, and come up with a way to move forward that moves, you can't even say humanity, but like the world forward. It moves everyone in a forward position, and it does so like while trying to improve their thought on everybody. It's it was Nira. I keep saying it was it Nira or Mira?
I thought you said Nira. Yeah.
Nira. Okay, I think Nira.
I'm not sure, to be honest with you, but I thought what you said earlier was Nira.
I'm remembering it as I'm talking about it.
Yeah. But all in all, man, I'm loving this show. You guys have opened up a new Star Trek universe to me that is just absolutely amazing. I haven't seen much that I haven't liked. Let's put it that way. It's on got a pretty good batting average of like a 950, which is best player ever kind of batting average. So I'm liking it pretty good, man. Really enjoyed the
Spock. At that moment where you have oh my god, what's Helm's name?
I'm not seeing you're talking about.
Mbenga and the chick and the helmsman are sitting at the table, and she's sitting there narrating the whole entire.
He's like,
oh, that bit, I loved it. He's like, are you kidding me? He's like, could you not see the tension between these two right now? And that moment when Spock stands up, he's like, I'm sorry you had to see that.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
I hate that you had to witness that outburst.
Yeah, when he walked away, you can look at those two. I think they were genuinely laughing. Like genuinely laughing.
Me too.
It was awesome.
That scene was so good. And it you know what? There's always moments like that in Star Trek. Once again, like it's a very Star Trek moment with Spock and like someone who is very serious to come out and say something so just like out of the blue that it tickles you to death. And
he's so deadpan about it too. It's just
yes. Out of all of my father's acquaintances, like that one brings out the worst in me.
Yeah, that was a good scene. Actually, I should have wrote that down because that was one I definitely would bring up. I'm glad you remembered it.
I love that. Oh, the dress uniforms, and like I didn't know how much. There were two things. It was the dress uniforms, and it was the actual table they were sitting at with the lighty thing that they stuck their hand on when they were talking at the stand. Both of those are TOS things. I didn't know those dress uniforms were almost like a verbatim from the original series, but so was the actual thing that they stuck their hand on. And so the set designers and the costumers all work together to bring that back also. So
So
I
said
thought
you
they were
like
like,
dress uniforms.
no, I'm saying they're original to TOS. So
Okay. I mean, they were okay. They didn't really do it for me.
I didn't know the badge thing. I was trying to figure out the badge thing. Like, I guess
Really?
they have to wear the special badge whenever they
You couldn't figure out the rainbow badge in June.
don't even. No, because that's from TOS also.
Okay. All right.
You keep
I don't know if it was
you
the
keep
TOS.
pushing your own agenda here.
I don't know if it was the TOS. Okay. Hey.
All of that came from the original series also, and so the badge, the uniforms, the hand glowy thing, all of that was from the original series way back when. And I didn't know what the I don't know why it is the way that it is. Like, I don't know the story behind that. So
Yeah.
I guess when
They're all
supposed to
different
be on
shapes too, which is what
that,
was
that's yeah, like the
Yeah.
admirals had like a double star or whatever it was,
weird. Yeah.
and
Mhm.
so all that's a real big, like, I'm not that old to know that. So
Yeah.
I don't know how that works out.
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, I mean that's all I really got for this episode. Yeah. We're 2 episodes into this one, so how many is in this season? Do you know?
10 total, I think.
Mhm.
We got 8 more episodes before I better see 2 faces show up.
Okay. Who?
I need to see my lower decks people show up.
But
Oh
you know
yeah.
what I'm thinking? You know what I'm thinking about that? I'm like, okay, the timeline, the time, because isn't Lower Decks like around like Next Generation?
I don't
No,
know.
they've always made the comments that basically is in their academy, like, training books. So like everything that they know of, I think maybe they make funnier quips about it because it is animated and they are able to get away with like more Family Guy-esque style comments.
Mhm.
But I don't think that it's supposed to be set that far back.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
but
have
the
no
thing
idea.
about it, I thought Paris was one of the episodes.
Or wait, that far forward.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was gonna say far back is how far it should go, right?
it should be forward.
Yeah,
Because
forward.
wasn't Paris in one of their episodes? So I'm like, that's Voyager. So I'm kind of curious to see how this is going to play out because
You're
I
right.
started
Yeah.
thinking about it. I was like,
I
um,
said it. I said when they mentioned it, when they talked about it at Comic-Con, which that's
maybe
something else
some
to talk
time
about.
travel in this
Is
series.
actually, did anyone watch next week's preview?
No.
no, better be quiet. No.
Is it spaghetti or is it linear? Just let me know.
We don't know yet. We don't know
Oh.
yet. But I'm going to tell you, it looks interesting.
Okay.
It like
Well, we know
they
Star
do
Trek already
character
did time
swaps.
travel, and it worked out pretty good. I feel. I don't know.
Let's see it in the show.
Yeah. Well, 8 episodes left. We got 5 episodes left of Secret Invasion. I'm sure we got more stuff coming out between now and the next few weeks that we're going to be covering.
We've got Jack Ryan next week.
Nice. I like Jack Ryan.
Is that next week?
That's going to drop
that a
all
whole-
at once,
it's
isn't
a-
it?
Yeah, it'll be. Yeah.
We're going to have to break that down into a couple weeks. So I don't know if I'll be able to watch a whole season today.
Oh,
Bro,
we
that's
have-
going to be that weekend.
Yeah.
Hey, not only that, we got the part 1 of The Witcher season 3, the last Cavill
Nice,
Witcher
nice.
series.
Hey, are we ever going to get Doom Patrol?
Indiana Jones. I have not seen anything on Doom Patrol. I've been looking.
They're just going to hope people
Yeah,
forgot about it.
Indiana Jones, we're seeing that the first.
Next
It'll be
weekend.
Or
afterwards.
July?
Mhm.
Wait, the first is
The first is a Saturday because the 4th is a
yeah,
Tuesday.
yeah.
Okay.
So Indiana Jones. Actually, no. The Witcher season 3 part 1. Indiana Jones. Jack Ryan on the same day. So both of that would be Friday on 6:30. And then you're good until Foundation season 2 comes out on July 14th.
We'll have stuff. We always have stuff. And if not,
We're gonna have to
there's
find a
lot
way
of
to
stuff
break
we
it
can
up.
cover.
Yeah,
Yeah.
break it up.
And we'll figure it out like 5 minutes for a show. I'm not worried about it. You know,
That'll be fun.
that's all you
Yeah.
need is 5 minutes to figure it out. So,
Mhm.
well, all right, y'all. I got
It's all
nothing
part of
else.
the plan.
We had those shows, we had the news, we had the trailers, we got it all in there. We got some fun stuff to talk about for the next few weeks. I got a pretty good feeling based on the way these shows were this week. Pretty excited about talking about it in the future. But I got nothing else this week unless y'all do.
Late
I'm
news:
done.
Comic-Con's gonna suck.
No, don't say that. I'm going to Comic-Con.
Not
Wait,
the one
I'm
you're
going to
going to.
GalaxyCon. Never mind. Why is
Apparently,
Comic-Con
Wow,
Marvel,
what's wrong?
DC, and HBO, I think, are all not showing up at Comic-Con this year.
No, we'll see how those sales go.
Mhm.
I wonder any reasoning why.
I'm assuming it's because they don't have a whole lot new that they want to talk about just yet, with all the tie-ups and all the shifting dates and everything else.
Wow. Okay. It's a bold move, Cotton.
Hall H is open if you want to do a podcast there.
You could literally have nothing to talk about and just have the characters show up and talk about shit they've already done and people will pay to come see it.
I know.
Seems like a dumbass reason not to have a con. But hey, I don't run these things. We'll see. All right, let's go ahead and get out of here. I am the Bat Daddy 52. My name is Greg. Follow me at the Bat Daddy 52 on Twitter. Check us out every week at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, Rumble, any podcatcher of your choice. Sarah, where can they find you?
You can still follow me on Twitter at My Lady Kitten. That's about it. I still kind of fall around.
Look, I'm not gonna lie, I don't on Twitter very much anymore at all. I've kind of gotten rid of it, and life is a lot better without it. It's just don't need it. I check it for show purposes. Beyond that, I really don't get on Twitter very much. So, yeah, Ross, where can we find you at?
Sitting somewhere that no one else knows about, watching social media fall apart very happily.
I'm gonna be right there with you very soon, buddy. Because
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's just life is a lot better without it. Go ahead and say, don't let
Very
social
much
media
so.
destroy it. All right, y'all, let's go ahead and get out of here. And I guess until next week, everybody just keep at it.
Bye, guys.